The night it began, she left a sleek silver pen on my desk. Shiny, engraved, not mine. At first I thought she'd borrowed it from a client meeting or maybe picked it up at a conference. But when I asked where it came from, she smiled too quickly. Too rehearsed. Just a promo from work, she said. Her tone was light, casual, but her hand lingered on the pen a moment longer than necessary, like she was reluctant to let it go. Her office never ordered custom pens. I knew that because I'd sat in enough of their meetings, listened to her vent about budgets, watched her shuffle through cheap plastic pens with company logos that smeared ink on her fingers. They didn't splurge on engraved initials. That detail alone stuck in my head. I picked the pen up. It had weight, heavier than any promo trinket. The metal was smooth, cold, and perfectly balanced. Whoever had ordered it cared about quality. And the initials carved neatly along the side weren't hers. They weren't mine either. That fact pressed down on me more than I wanted to admit. Still, I let it slide. I set the pen back on the desk, smiled, and nodded. I didn't press further. But later, when I went to bed, the image of it lingered. That single object, glinting under the lamp, felt out of place, like a misplaced clue from someone else's story that had ended up in mine. Over the next few days, I noticed it showing up in odd places. On the kitchen counter, in her purse, half hidden beneath receipts, balanced casually on the coffee table, even though she never used pens at home. It wasn't functional to her, it was symbolic, like a secret she didn't intend to explain. Every time I caught sight of it, I felt something tighten in my chest. Not anger, not even suspicion yet, just unease. That kind of quiet instinct you try to push down but can't, because it wasn't the object itself. It was her relationship to it. The way she handled it carefully, almost affectionately, like it meant something more than ink on paper. And maybe I wouldn't have noticed if everything else felt normal between us. But lately, normal had slipped through our fingers. She was more guarded, more distracted, smiling at her phone in ways she didn't smile at me anymore. And now, this object, a pen that didn't belong, was suddenly stitched into our daily life without explanation. It wasn't proof of anything. Not yet. But it was the first crack in the surface, a reminder that sometimes the smallest details carry the sharpest edges. As I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling while she scrolled beside me with her phone angled away, I couldn't stop replaying her quick smile when I asked about the pen. Too fast, too neat, like a line rehearsed in case of questions. That was when I felt it, the first pull of something colder, quieter, whispering in the back of my mind. Some objects aren't gifts, they're warnings. And I had just been handed one. The first time I noticed the shift, it was almost invisible. Her phone, once left casually on counters or tucked into cushions, started traveling everywhere with her, into the kitchen, the bathroom, even to the laundry room. It never left her hand. At first I thought it was just habit. Everyone's glued to their screens these days. But then came the small adjustments. Screen tilted away from me, notifications silenced. The phone flipped face down the moment I walked into a room. It wasn't only the phone. Our shared calendar, something we both relied on, started glitching. Appointments vanished, reminders failed to appear. Twice I missed meetings because events she'd added suddenly disappeared. She brushed it off with a laugh. Tech hates me, she said, waving her hand like it was a running joke. But when the password reset emails started showing up in my inbox, logins I hadn't requested, recovery codes for accounts I hadn't touched, I realized this wasn't tech failure. This was someone deliberately redrawing the borders of access. The silver pen appeared again that week. I found it on the counter while she was on a call, twirling it absent-mindedly between her fingers, smiling at a voice I couldn't hear. When she saw me watching, she slipped it into her purse, almost too quickly, and turned away. My questions hovered on the edge of my tongue, but I swallowed them. I had learned something important already. Her secrecy grew louder than any explanation she could offer. Still, I didn't confront. Not yet. Instead, I watched. I kept track. A note on my phone with timestamps. When she angled her screen. When she worked late. When she excused herself mid-conversation to answer a message. Patterns began forming like constellations, quiet but undeniable. The breach showed itself one night when I logged into our shared cloud. We'd always kept backups of photos, receipts, travel plans. Nothing scandalous, just the digital clutter of two people building a life together. But now, the folder structure had shifted. Whole albums missing, shared documents locked behind permissions I didn't recognize. I tried to access one and got a prompt. Request access from owner. I was the owner. Or at least I used to be. That was when the secondary plotline snapped into focus. This wasn't just emotional distance. It was structural. She was rewriting access, walling off spaces we had built together, one account at a time. I tested her once. Over dinner, I mentioned casually that my work email had flagged a strange login attempt. Her fork paused midair, only for a second, before she forced a laugh. People try to hack everything these days. She didn't ask what the attempt was, didn't offer concern. Just moved on too fast, like she wanted the topic erased. And every night, when she finally set her phone down, I'd see the faint reflection of her screen in her glasses, her face lit by conversations I was no longer invited into. She'd claim it was just project updates, but the silver pen was always nearby, resting neatly beside her like punctuation at the end of every excuse. Secrecy doesn't announce itself with sirens. It creeps in through tiny doors, a phone angled, a password changed, a laugh saved for someone else. I felt it in the silences between her words, in the way she brushed off my presence like static she could mute with a button. The more she clutched her phone, the more I clutched that pen. Heavy, cold, engraved with initials I didn't recognize. A reminder that whatever she was hiding wasn't random. It had shape, substance, and now, it had symbols. And in the quiet of those nights, I stopped asking why. I started preparing to find out how deep it went. The slip didn't arrive with a confession. It walked in at a low-key birthday dinner, attached to one of her coworkers. She sat 2 chairs down, close enough to graze my sleeve, far enough to stay distant. When she unzipped her clutch to check her phone, the silver pen flashed. Appetizers blurred, travel plans, office jokes. Then her coworker, Nate, leaned in to clink her glass and said, like an in-joke, "Careful, don't let him steal your pen again." Her smile stalled, then rebooted. She set a hand over the clutch. "He's obsessed," she said, nodding at me. "It's just a pen. Not just any pen," Nate added. "AR keeps ordering those custom ones. I told him he's creating monsters." AR. The initials matched the barrel I'd rolled in my palm at home. I waited for her to own it. "Vendor promos," she said too quickly. "Everyone gets one." "Adrian Russo," Nate clarified. "Partner firm. He hands them out when we wrap something big." She shot him a look meant to be invisible. It wasn't. I asked to see it, letting the request land between dessert menus. She hesitated, then placed the pen in my hand. Heavy, balanced. The engraving was clean, AR, not hers, not mine. "Nice gift," I said, returning it. "Not a gift," she corrected. "It's just around." Around did a lot, around her calls, around our house, around the edges of stories that kept changing. First, promo from work. Now, vendor. Now a man with matching initials who orders them. The table fractured into side talk. Her eyes met mine, measuring, not warm. Walking to the car, her heels set a metronome. "Nate talks too much," she said. "He makes everything sound like a conspiracy." "I heard a name," I said, unlocking the door. "Vendor. Pens. End of story." She angled the vent away. "Does AR also fix calendars?" I kept my tone even. "Ours has been off." Her jaw clicked. "The app is trash," she said. "It keeps logging me out." "Of what?" I asked. "The calendar or the cloud?" Silence with edges. "Can we not do tech support right now?" At home she moved through rooms switching on lights she didn't need. The pen migrated. Dresser, vanity, nightstand. When she thought I wasn't looking, she slid it into a drawer and pressed it shut. I opened my phone to clear a notification. A verification code stared back. "Your Apple ID is being used to sign in on a new device." I hadn't signed in anywhere. Beneath it, password reset request for a shared folder we both used, now owned by an address I didn't recognize. I could still explain it if I wanted her version of normal. Vendors give gifts. Apps glitch. Coworkers say too much. But truth rarely needs 3 edits in 30 minutes. I didn't ask who Adrian was beyond. Partner firm. I needed the line between a name at dinner and a new lock on a door we once shared. In the dresser mirror she pretended to scroll. The glow in her lenses pulsed like someone waiting for a reply. She turned off the lamp, but a square of light leaked from the drawer. A buzz. Her hand found the handle, then hovered. The first clue wasn't dramatic. It was a coworker saying a name too clearly and a story changing too quickly. A pen that wouldn't stop appearing where it didn't belong, and a login alert arriving the moment she tried to tuck it away. I didn't press. I held the pattern like a coin and waited. The next proof would arrive without my help, glowing on a screen I wasn't meant to see. It happened because a battery died. She plugged her phone into the kitchen outlet, and headed for the shower. The iPad on the counter woke to our old cloud and flashed. Messages syncing from iPhone. I glanced. The screen did the rest. At the top, Adrian Russo. The initials on the pen acquired a face. Bubbles stacked. Timestamps neat as a ledger no one expected me to read. A photo loaded. Soft lighting. Her chin tilted. The silver pen between fingers. His caption. My favorite accessory. Her reply. You started it. Then. You light up with me, not him. The line sat there and something in me went still. Not broken, just done. More lines scrolled. Jokes about calendar. Glitches. Sliding into the archive before he notices. A screenshot of a permission change. Owner AR. I didn't press play on the voice note. I photographed the thread. Another bubble. I said it was vendor stuff. He bought it. Bought, not believed. The iPad chimed again. A map pin hovered over a hotel bar I know from work trips. His text. Corner booth. Hers. 10. Later, a black and white selfie. Face cropped. Pen flashing like a signature. Caption. Too tired to go home. Water shut off. I locked the iPad, set it back, wiped the steam line away. She came back, hair wet, reaching for the tablet to cue a playlist. Her gaze skimmed the battery icon, then flicked to me. You okay? Long day, I said, and kept chopping. The pen clicked in her palm once. Reflex, comfort, confirmation. Later, at my desk, the mirrored thread had already landed in a hidden folder, an automated backup she'd left on when she privatized the share. I opened it and read. He treated me like a project risk. He seems soft. He won't do anything drastic, she replied with dots then. He hates conflict. We teach people how to treat us. I had taught generously. Then logistics. Move the meeting to the partner calendar, less visible to him. Use personal email for the files. It won't ping his address. The secondary plotline wasn't hiding. It was structure now. Access. Permissions. Small doors relabeled until I was a guest in my own hallway. I scrolled to the day the pen first appeared. Her note to him was timestamped 2 hours before she set it on my desk. He'll notice. He notices small things. His reply. Let him. It makes it fun. Acceptance arrived like accounting. The numbers balanced. The ledger closed. The question changed from am I misreading? To how much has already been reassigned without me? I closed the laptop and went to bed. She was already there, phone face down. When I lay down, she shifted an inch closer, choreography learned over years. You're quiet, she murmured. Just tired, I said. A tiny flinch crossed her face and vanished. I didn't reach for her. I reached for the pen on the nightstand and rolled it once across my palm. Heavy, certain. Evidence you can hold and still pretend is only ink. Tomorrow I'd sit across from a contract with a partner firm whose name now had a person attached. I'd think about folders and changed owners. Tonight I memorized the shape of the truth, not rumor or jealousy, just messages in order, a story she told someone else about the life we were still performing. In its margin, the pen kept appearing, underlining what I already knew. Some warnings don't arrive by hand. They sink themselves, line by line, until you stop looking away. The morning after the sync, the risk turned concrete. An invite landed. Vendor Strategy Sync, hosted by the partner firm. In the CCs sat Adrian Russo. The deck attached was Q3_revenue bridge_final_AR. I opened the slides in a scrubber. Page 2 showed forecasts that live only in our private repo, figures my team guards behind permissions I configured. A faint watermark remained, prepared by SR. She had exported our models for his meeting. The silver pen lay on my keyboard as I scrolled, pointing at numbers that should never have left my building. Confrontation would vent, documentation would protect. I chose documentation, screenshots, audit logs, a timeline with IPs and timestamps, then went to compliance. Dana read the first page and closed her inbox. Who else knows? She said. Right now. You and the cloud, I answered. Good, she said. We go by the book. I declined the sync and routed it. Per policy. Minutes later, Adrian emailed, light tone hiding urgency. Hate to miss your perspective. I didn't reply. That evening she tested the water while rinsing a glass. Is your firm meeting their team next week? She asked without looking at me. Compliance is taking point, I said. Her towel froze midair. That seems intense. I stacked plates. It's standard when confidential work gets repackaged. The ripples widened. My boss asked for a hallway update. I stayed clinical. Procurement pinged. The partner wanted early renewal. I sent one line. Pause until review closes. At 3:12 p.m., Dana messaged, Our graphs had appeared inside a draft on the partner side. Another note followed. The shared folder permission flipped 2 nights earlier from our household IP. Not an outside breach. A doorknob turned inside. That night I rotated passwords, pulled recovery emails off anything with both our names, set download alerts. The mirrored thread delivered more. If his team asks, say we're aligning workflows, Adrian wrote. Make it sound like efficiency. She sent a thumbs up. Efficiency, their word for erasing me. By morning, a folder sat on my desk labeled with a date. Inside logs, the invite, the deck, and a print of his line. You light up with me, not him. Motive helps auditors understand method. The pen weighted the stack. She noticed after dinner. You're working late on what? She asked, voice softened. Boundary maintenance, I said. Her hand hovered, then withdrew. I don't want you stressed, she tried. It isn't stress, I said. It's structure. A compliance debrief slotted for morning. Before I left, she stood in the doorway. I don't feel great, she said, leaving the rest implied. I might need to see someone. It could be something. Her fingers grazed her stomach. I met her eyes, then the clock. Business risk had drawn a perimeter. Now she was sketching a different stake. I hope you get answers, I said, lifting the folder. Behind me, the drawer where she keeps the pen clicked shut. After the debrief, my phone buzzed. Her text was shaped like timing. Can you talk later? It's important. Below it, a photo of an appointment card from a clinic, time circled. Some risks live in audits and contracts. Others arrive as calendar invites you didn't create. Either way, stakes moved from whispers to line items. I set the pen at my desk center and watched its reflection point toward the next move, the kind that won't lower risk, only shift where it lands. She chose a clinic with muted walls and a fountain so small it sounded like a clock. She handed me the appointment card like a peace treaty and kept the silver pen tucked under her thumb as if the form needed a guardian. I didn't want to worry you, she said, voice low enough to be overheard. But if it's what I think, we should pause everything else. Work, meetings, that vendor mess. There it was, the pivot disguised as care. I nodded and let the receptionist slide a clipboard across the counter. She used the pen to sign, initials snapping neat corners into each box. AR glinted when she turned her wrist. She didn't notice. In the waiting room, she threaded her fingers through mine and let them go just as quickly, as if the gesture itself were a test she needed on record. Whatever happens, she breathed. I don't want this to become another debate. Her gaze lingered for my reaction. I gave her a steady one. Whatever happens, I said, we'll stick to facts. Her phone vibrated face down. She flipped it with a small, guilty flourish and smiled at no one. Across the room, a poster promised certainty in 2 business days with a patient portal login. We both use portals for other things. Her devices like to remember passwords. Mine like to remember patterns. While she met the nurse, I watched water stutter out of the fountain and thought about forecasts exported without permission, audit logs with our address on them, and a pen that kept writing itself into scenes it didn't belong in. The 2 plot lines weren't separate anymore. They were a braid. On the drive home, she placed her palm flat on her stomach, the way people in movies telegraph stakes. If this is real, she whispered, eyes wet enough to shine but not enough to run. We need to set new priorities. You know that, right? I merged onto the highway and kept my voice even. Priorities are easy when we're honest about what they are. That evening, the cloud did what clouds do when someone forgets to log out. A notification appeared on the iPad. New device signed into Health Portal. The preview showed a draft she never planned to send me. Typed to Adrian and saved, not delivered. I told him it might be happening. He froze everything at work. This buys time. If it's positive, he'll have to reset. If not, I'll say it was a scare and pivot to stress. She was staging, not sharing. I didn't show her the screen. I photographed it quietly and filed it beside the slide deck with my models. Then I opened a different browser and requested a kit professionals use when facts need chain of custody instead of feelings. The lab confirmed shipment with a clean email trail. No drama. No accusations. Just process. She made soup and set the bowl in front of me with hands that shook only when she looked up. We could make new rules, she offered, voice tentative. No phones at night. More time together. Less pressure. The sentences arrived like pre-written captions beneath a photo meant to look candid. I let the steam rise between us. I'm fine with rules, I said, as long as they're the same in private as they are in public. Her eyes flashed at the word public. Why would you say that? The question tried to sound wounded. It landed calculated. I didn't bite. Because we've been performing, I said, taking a sip. and I'm done improvising. When she went to shower, her laptop pinged on the counter. Another portal message populated the preview. No content, only a timestamp. In our living room, the pen sat upright in a mug like a small silver flag. The next morning, she placed her phone face up beside her coffee as if transparency could be set like a prop. "I want you at the follow-up," she said softly. I slid my calendar forward. "I'll be there." Then I texted our closest friends, people who've known both of us before the hashtags and the scripted dinner stories. "Small dinner Friday? Need witnesses for something I need to say." I didn't explain more. You only assemble a room when you're sure of the order of your pages. At noon, compliance pinged me. The partner firm had moved Q3_revenue bridge_final_AR into a private folder. "We'll proceed regardless," the note read. I closed the message and circled Friday on my own calendar. 2 threads, 1 knot. By afternoon, she looped an arm around my shoulders in the kitchen, a gesture both familiar and strangely precise. "Whatever the result is," she murmured, "it should change how you're handling that vendor issue." She leaned back to search my face, looking for delay, leverage, compliance. "It should change everything." "It already has," I said. That night, I set the table for 4 and placed the silver pen at its center, not as decor, but as a compass pointing to the version of events she kept trying to draw. The portal would answer in its own time. The room would answer sooner. Some twists arrive as thunder. Others whisper themselves through forms and login screens until the only sound left is the click of a pen you never asked to hold. They arrived quietly, friends who'd seen us without polish. The table was plain, 4 plates, water glasses, and the silver pen at the center like a compass pointing to one name. She noticed as she set down the salad. "Cute centerpiece," she said, tapping the barrel. After 10 minutes of small talk, I stood. "I'll be brief," I said. "I need the truth in one room." Her fork paused. "Can this wait?" "It already did," I said, sliding a folder beside the pen. Screenshots, audit logs, the invite with Adrian Russo hosting, the slide deck with my team's models, and the unsent clinic note she typed to him. "This buys time." Her voice went bright. "You're reading my messages to embarrass me?" "Your cloud kept syncing to the iPad," I said. "I documented what arrived. I'm not here to embarrass you. I'm here to end a performance." Nina glanced at the pen. Caleb watched my face, then hers. I read lines as they appeared that night. "You light up with me, not him." A pause. "Bought, not believed," from her vendor story. Then the permission change, owner AR. Then the map pinned to the hotel bar, then the caption under a cropped selfie. "Too tired to go home." She laughed, the kind that buys seconds. "Out of context. We were joking." "And the calendar?" I misclicked. "Our models were in his deck," I said, sliding the watermark toward Nina. "Compliance has it." Renewals paused. "That's work." This, I tapped the portal print, "was meant to stall me." "That's us." Her face tightened. "I thought I might be." Her hand hovered at her stomach. "You're turning something sacred into a tribunal." "I ordered the lab kit because facts matter," I said. "If it's positive, we'll handle personal accountability. If not, we'll call it what you told him, stress." She reached for anger, then pity. "You've been cold. I tried to keep us together. You disappeared into work. You're staging this to make me look like what?" I asked quietly. "Misled? Or staging and attempting to shift blame?" No heat. I haven't raised my voice. I'm telling the truth in front of people who knew us before the script. Nina spoke first. "The logs aren't opinions," she said. I nudged the pen. "Tell them who gave you this," I said. "Promo, or Adrian Russo." Silence. She tried a different lever. "You're controlling. Checking devices, reading." "The device checked itself," I said. "You forgot to log out." I looked to Caleb. "I'm not proud of this. I won't carry it alone." She gripped the pen, then set it down. "Fine," she said, voice thin. "We got close. He understood me. We were talking. I was lonely." "Lonely isn't a crime," I said. "Exporting my work is. And telling him I bought stories you manufactured? That isn't loneliness. That's strategy." The room went quiet. I closed the folder. "I'm not asking for an argument or an apology," I said. "I'm notifying what happens next. Compliance owns the contract review. I own the next steps at home. I needed witnesses so no one has to play telephone later." Nina nodded once. Caleb stared at his hands. "So that's it," she said. "You blow up our life over a pen and some messages." "Over a pattern," I said. "The pen is just the part you can hold." I put the papers back, slid my chair in. No slammed doors. Just the table, the evidence, and the pen, between us, visible. Dessert? I asked. No one answered. The only sound was the click of the pen settling as I let it go. Morning brought nothing from her, only Nina. Here if you need anything. And Caleb. I'm sorry. The house looked staged again, clean surfaces, a centerpiece pen that wasn't mine. Last night was cruel, she said at the sink. You made me look small. I showed the record, I said. She reached for the pen, then withdrew. You could have asked me first. I did, I said. Or months. Before lunch, the clinic portal chimed. One line negative. She stood over my shoulder, then tried a pivot. Stress can do that. They said so. The footer listed hydration and rest. No speech. Just the end of a claim that asked me to suspend gravity. By afternoon, compliance filed a memo. Our models had moved through the partner's draft pipeline. Renewal paused. Legal opened a matter. The partner replied with a careful apology and personnel review. Adrian's email went dark. His calendar froze. Not fired. Corporate never writes that. Just sidelined. She tried to outrun it with a group text. Rough patch. Appreciate privacy. Replies trickled in hearts, thumbs. Nothing that required presence. At home, privileges evaporated. The travel account stopped recognizing her login. The shared calendar shrank to birthdays and trash pickup. Playlists reverted to mine. Did you change the router password? She asked. I changed all of them, I said. Household security review. To lock me out? To keep doors from being left open. She sat at the table. The pen rolled toward the edge and stopped. I didn't mean for it to get this far, she whispered. It was loneliness mixed with work. What you meant, I said, is already written down. The social drawdown followed. Invitations thinned from come by to maybe later to silence. Nina stopped liking her posts. Caleb muted the thread. Late in the week she tried one last pitch. Nostalgia. She set the Asheville photo book on the table, spine cracked in the old place. We could still, she began, but the sentence had no verbs strong enough to lift it. I slid the folder across, memo, watermark, portal screenshot, dates like stitches. I'm not angry, I said. I'm finished. People will think you overreacted, she murmured. People believe documentation, I said. I'm done editing it. One by one, her supports loosened. Consulting cut her hours. While the review is ongoing, the podcast paused. For a season, friends who cheered her independence stopped saving her seat. She began sleeping with the TV on, as if a steady murmur could manufacture company. On a quiet Sunday, I packed in daylight, documents, clothes, the photo I once kept in a drawer. She watched from the doorway. So this is it, she said. This is where truth replaces performance, I answered. I left the keys on the hook and the pen on the table where everyone had seen it. By the time I reached the sidewalk, a message hit. Can we talk? Another followed. We can fix this. I let both sit unread. Fixing assumes a shared blueprint. We hadn't been building the same house for a long time. Her life didn't collapse in noise. It thinned, circles shrinking, calendars emptying, the pen losing its weight once it stopped pointing at someone else. When people asked what happened, I said the only sentence that belongs at the end of a record. Everything is in the file. Some objects return to their owner. Some stay behind as evidence. I closed the door on the latter and kept walking.